It's not surprising that more and more women are choosing not to get married and to have children, not because they don't want to, not because you don't have the desire to, but because you hear things like what we learned over the weekend that there is 62 million men visiting a website which teaches them how to rape their wives and girlfriends. And when you have had the experience as a child, where men being unsafe was very, very real for you. So that was your relational blueprint. And then you go to try and have relationships and you get like, you're like a magnet to narcissists or to abuse and things like that, because that's what you experience as a kid. You're kind of like, okay, in order to keep myself safe and keep my children safe, what I'll do is I'll just avoid men altogether. And I really understand this journey well because that is what I did. I didn't actually meet my husband until I was 37. I didn't get married until I was 40. And this was why, because grew up with a narcissistic father who was abusive to my mum in every single way: marital rape, financial abuse, physical, mental, and emotional. He was really abusive to us as well. His moods were just so explosive. So we just learned to be whoever he wanted us to be so that we could be safe in that environment. Your relational blueprint gets built in that environment. So when you are a grown up and you're in your 20s and 30s, you are attracting similar kind of relationships. So it makes me so sad when I hear of women much younger than me deciding that actually, you know what, I'm just not gonna have children and I'm not going to be with a man because they're just so messed up. Because I've come through healing from my narcissistic father and my own relational patterns to attract a different type of man whom I can have a healthy, happy relationship with, and which is evolving all the time. So, what I want to go through today is how I did that. How do you go from the narcissistic, toxic family dynamic to creating your own healthy, loving marriage relationship that is the foundation to have children, etc. And I'm going to bring it down to about 4 steps for you to drill into this because I get it. You actually feel really unsafe with men because you don't know safe, healthy men. Have you got a friend that didn't have the same experience with their fathers, didn't grow in abusive home, and how they just were a really great guy? It's just so natural for them because they had a really lovely dad. That's their relational blueprint. So lovely guys, their experience of dating. Whereas with you, that's not been the case. So you're like, oh, okay, it's just safer for me and for my potential children if I just don't play this game. No, you should not be doing that. Even when we hear that 62 million men are going on the internet doing these things. And for you, if you've had this experience in your childhood where your dad wasn't the greatest man and was an abuser, was maybe even a sexual abuser, you know, as ugly as that is to say out loud, but it's the truth. And it's a shadow that you've been afraid to face. And now we're seeing in the world, we're seeing what we've already experienced as children. I already saw this as a child. I already saw that this disrespect that my dad and my granddad had for women. I saw how my dad and my granddad treated their daughters differently. We were like workhorses for them. My dad was like, I can like not work because you can, but he wouldn't ever treat my brother like that. So there was like a complete disrespect for women that he just had. He'd learned from his own father and from culture and from the systems that are keeping these men allowed to be abusers. So, how do we end that and build a completely different family without sacrificing our own desire for children and for love, right? To break it down into 4 steps. So, number one, we have to raise our standards, right? Women have been gaslit since forever about their standards. Don't be too picky. You are too old. You're not that special. You shouldn't want this. Like, we are totally encouraged to not have very high standards when it comes to men. And as we are starting to see, that is not working for us. So, a woman's body as well, you will know, you will be able to feel when someone is not good for you. But because as a child, because it was your father's or your grandfather's or whoever was around you, you learnt to override that natural feeling that you get deep in your body that something isn't good for you. You need to awaken those things again and get very, very, very clear about what your red flags are. what you are no longer available for. So I don't know, something like a man who doesn't listen to you and is like always talking really badly to you, is really disrespectful to you. That should be a red flag. You shouldn't be just accepting that of someone. Somebody that is not concerned about your safety, somebody that's not concerned about um how you feel, what you need. So all of these things, you need to get really very, very clear on what those bare minimum things are and know that the relational blueprint that you were set in childhood when you didn't have a great dad, especially a narcissistic dad, especially an abusive dad, especially an addict dad, all these things, they did not show you how to value and respect you, in all honesty. I have a spreadsheet where you can plug these standards in. So your red flags. Also, you should also be putting in there what is a must have. So somebody that's a good communicator, somebody that doesn't take drugs, somebody that's not into porn. Seriously, ladies, let's put up the bar. I was speaking to a client the other day and she's like, well, this guy, he doesn't take drugs, but yeah, he's not really listening to me when I say I have a need. He's not listening to that. But he doesn't take drugs. I mean, can we just listen to that statement? It's like, well, it's best out of a bad bunch. No, want what you want, okay? Be really, really clear. When I'm not talking perfectionism, that's a nice to have. So I'm super spiritual. My husband is not, but that was a nice to have. Like I was like, oh, I'd really like it if somebody was. But actually, my husband's very heart-centered. He works on growing and evolving, and he has these great skills. And I didn't really think of that. I was just like personal development and spirituality to a man like that, but he actually has those things. So, not having these boxes that we're kind of obsessed with, ignoring like great guys because they're not fitting into a specific box, really thinking about how the person makes you feel, safe, security. You're allowed to say no. You're allowed to not abandon or betray yourself for the love or the connection and these kind of things. I have a spreadsheet that you can plug all of this in to help you with your standards work. It's called a Healthy Love Tracker. If you just comment below with love, I'll send that to you. Step one, which is getting really clear on the standards. No more bare minimums, no more crumbs. Okay. And actually really thinking about what it is that you do and do not want rather than what you think is possible for you. Oh, men are, not the greatest to women, so we just need to accept these things. No. The way that men are going to change is because women raise their standards of what they want. Simple as. They raise their standards and they're focusing on the men that are willing to work on and evolve, okay? Men and women, we have inside of us a lot of patriarchy programming. So there's things that the man will do unconsciously. He doesn't even realize he's doing it because of his upbringing from childhood. Even a good man, right, will be doing these things, as will we. In my marriage, I have betrayed and abandoned myself so that he feels comfortable and he gets his needs met because I don't want to rock the boat because he's a great man and he's got so many great qualities, but then I'm betraying and abandoning myself. And that's what the feminine and the masculine have learned to do. And when I have put myself first and he's got really frustrated with that, I've had to really show him and explain to him, can you see that I'm just trying to take care of my need and you are making it seem like it's too much? Because again, that is that masculine programming that we all have. The very first step is getting really clear about what we do and do not want, what are our nice to haves, what are our must haves, what are our non-negotiables, and really looking for a relationship with a man that we can grow and evolve with and who is willing to do the deeper work than just what's surface level. There is lots of men that are not willing to do that, right? But there are lots of men that are. And when you start to be really clear about that, those men will start to come more towards you. Really doing your own work. Step one is relationship with self. So it's being really clear about what it is that you want, your standards with others, but also making sure that you are embodying that for yourself. So if you want someone to listen to you and to be present with you, but you are not listening and being present with yourself, if you want someone to unconditionally love you, but you are not being unconditionally loving to yourself, it doesn't work that way. You have to embody it. So everything that's on your list, making sure that you do not do those things to yourself. So if you are looking for someone that is not abusing you emotionally with words, stop doing it yourself. This is how you start to change your frequency If you are like dating and things like that, really seeing it as an opportunity for data, as in what are my patterns in relationship? What are other people? What do I like? What don't I like? And who do I need to be in order to have a higher standard of love, right? That's really important because if you are wanting a higher standard of love, but you are not embodying it, then it's not going to come forward to you. So somebody that's giving loads to everybody else that wants a balanced relationship but is in loads of imbalanced friendships, that's not the vibe. So this is the work that we do in my community ends with me and in like a deeper container, which I have called Overflow, where we go really deep into raising your standard so that your relationships around you, the life around you raises its standard too. Number two is your relationship with men. When you start to be in a relationship, you're going into patterns of codependency, of self-betrayal, abandonment, of chasing love. Healthy feminine energy is like leaning back. It's not playing games, okay? It's not that, but it's not chasing the man for love, right? You might have done that with your dad, you might have done that with previous relationships. And that means that the masculine is able to have power. So basically, it's really cleaning all of that up. So your codependent patterns of people pleasing, of self betrayal, self abandonment, over giving, all of these things you are cleaning up. You are expressing your needs, you are expressing your desires. Okay. It's also not that a man has to be so perfect that he fills you up because nobody is, okay? Nobody's going to fill you up. You have to be able to fill yourself up. The thing about romantic relationships is they bring up all of our attachment shite from childhood, right? So if we're anxiously attached, when we're not hearing from the man, we get anxious and crazy. But the thing is, we're not wanting a man that contacts us every 2 seconds so we don't have to feel that pain. No, because that would be building an unhealthy relationship, building the healthy relationship, not through self-abandonment or betrayal. I have a lot of sensitive and intuitive clients and very empathic, because they've grown up in homes with like narcissism and feel what that the guy wants and people please him and whatever and be great to kind of lure him in. But you don't want to do that. You just want to be your authentic self. But what you'll have to do in order to do that, to not go into chasing, to not go into codependency, is you will have to sit in the space of not contacting or not chasing and actually tending to your own inner child, still continuing the relationship with self. I see with lots of clients, they can be really good when they're single and they're like got a great relationship with self. But the minute that a guy comes along, and I used to do this as well, that would just go to shit. And to have a healthy relationship, it's got to come from you being your healthier version because you're going to attract a much better mate. There's lots of things that I've created in life: business, money, marriage, home, lots of things. Now, I've created a lot of those things in a lot of fight or flight energy, a lot of anxiety, a lot of chasing. And I haven't been able to hold. They affected my health and my well-being. And there's been times like my marriage where I've come from a really healthy, regulated nervous system and done the work in our relationship when it was progressing so that I didn't go into these old patterns. I actually planted the seeds for a really healthy, beautiful, like almost like tree that has become our marriage, which continues to evolve and grow. Because I came from such a regulated place of self and that I didn't betray that or abandon that when I was in my relationship with him. He really helped me because he was like, that thing you do where you try to fix things for me, I'm going to need you to stop doing that because that's really annoying. So he also had boundaries. He also had ways in which he took care of himself. Like he plays computer games on a certain day, for example. He was very clear and honest with me. So it's like allowing them to have their way that they are independent and have their own lives, but then how you prioritize your lives together as well. And through the dating process, really not abandoning and betraying for the connection. That's so important. And being authentically yourself, because you are going to attract somebody that is the right person for you rather than trauma bond. Being honest about your feelings, being honest about your needs, but also equally being able to take the feedback off them and going, actually, yeah, you know what? I do that. I do that. I need to work on that. Not taking it in an offense, but actually being like, yeah, I do that. Like when he said, could you stop trying to fix me? I was like, yeah, I do that. I'll work on that. Thanks. It's a level of maturity as well. So it's not losing connection to self, it's setting boundaries, it's taking care of yourself through the relationship, it's not betraying and abandoning, it's not performing, it's not pretending to be somebody else. The lower behavior that we take from men is like actually really calling that out, right? It is calling that out. And also, if there is something that a man isn't able to do, so like for example, I am as a woman, I love talking about things in great depth and detail. And my husband is not available to do that all the time. So I look for that in other relationships. So this lie that we've been told as women that the man has to be everything is just, oh my gosh, it's just not like no man can be everything to you, but it's making sure that whatever it is that you long for in relationships that you're able to get in different places too. So it's not that this is all everything, it's that you are getting that from elsewhere as well. And that includes your career. That includes your health. That includes your emotional well-being from other relationships. Real shadow that I had, which was because I didn't have an example of what healthy was. I didn't know what was unhealthy. So the fact that being together as a couple and us like working on our communication, working on our different dreams and how we make those things work, working on compromise together, working on like I didn't see any of all of this. So sometimes I could be very quick to be like, oh my God, is this not the right relationship for me because he's not being 100% supportive in this way, rather than us talking through these things and working them out together. I went full time in my business about 4 years ago, and that put us under like a financial pressure, which was not something he asked for. And I would feel a lot of guilt and shame about that. I was like, oh, I need to be performing really, really well in order to have this. Part of the reason why we got into this situation is because I wasn't really clear about my desires. Maybe that would have made we would have had a different choice when it came to the property that we bought. But I wasn't really comfortable sharing that properly with him. And then when we were in this situation and there's financial pressure, I'm feeling like I have to abandon and betray my dream and almost holding him responsible for that, rather than I'm not really communicating or feeling safe. And that's not because he's not someone I can approach, it's just because I have the lived experience in my nervous system that that's not okay. So this is like almost the balancing of when we're in relationship is kind of like the understanding of what's healthy, what's not, what are we working on and what are we growing on. And to have a man that you're able to do that with, we're a team and we're gonna work on these things together. And it's not perfect because we all have that big conditioning. A woman just happens to betray herself and carries so much. Number three, this is one that I wish I had figured out sooner. When you've had a narcissistic father, it's not been safe for you to express yourself. Conflict can be something that you run from, that you avoid, that you don't express yourself because of it. But this is actually a really important part of evolving your relationship and making it deeper. And also that if somebody is going to not want to be in the relationship because you're asking for too much and they're not willing to work through that with you, then they're not the person, right? I avoided conflict in my relationship because conflict was so unsafe growing up. So things like I wanted to move house and I wasn't sharing that. And then it just came out in a load of frustration because I was avoiding the conflict. I was avoiding upsetting my husband and the safe little life that we'd created because I wanted something more. And that's because of conflict being so unsafe growing up. But not that my husband's like this big, angry, shouty man, but that is a normal part of relationship because when you are evolving and growing and working on yourselves, you are always going to be changing. And so desires and needs and things like that are always going to be growing. So it's really important to be able to share that with the other person, even if you know that they're going to be upset, it's going to be an inconvenience, they're not going to like it. It's part of you building a healthy relationship, which is the foundation of the family that you are creating. See that as an opportunity for closeness and for growth. And just because of the way it looked when you were younger, it's actually a really powerful thing. So I wanted to move area and he didn't. But we came through that in such a much stronger, healthier way. But I did have to be very clear to be like, this is so bad for my mental health to stay here. So I'm not going to be able to carry on living here. If that's what you want, we're going to have to look at not living in the same house because I can't do that. And that was really hard for me to be that clear that this is actually really affecting my well-being. So I'm going to have to choose myself over the marriage. And that's kind of where that conflict, and it gives your relationship a chance to really meet you where you are as well. For is creating the healthy rituals in your relationship and in the family you're creating. When you have come from a lot of chaos and a lot of drama, a calm relationship where you're just there for each other and you love each other and you're building this life together can seem kind of boring. There's no chaos, there's no drama. So you really want to be like focusing on like what's the rituals that we're going to have in our relationship to create memories and closeness and joy and all these things. My family, the one I grew up in, we used to meet together all of the time, and there was always lots of alcohol. It was like a really intense arguments, things like that. And I was used to all of that. And then I got into this relationship where there is no chaos and there is no drama and there's no intensity like that. So it can feel a bit like something's missing, but it's actually the opportunity to create your own rituals, getting really clear about who are the people that um, what does that look like? Like something really silly we did the other day, it was our anniversary, and we had like banana splits. I've never like made my own at home. It was so much fun. We were like children. I was like, oh my God, I think we should do this on certain celebrations, like do a banana split, like a joyful thing out of it. Or, you know, we have friends coming over and we're like planned all this like cool like stuff we could do together to like create memories together. So this is consciously the family, the partnership that we are consciously creating. Like dates every single week or once a month, certain nights where you're having a movie night. These kind of things, they provide a structure to the relationship and to creating the life together that you do want, and working on that together, not just ritual, but also consciously what is the life that you are creating together, and having like a bigger vision for that, because that really gives you something that you're both working on together as well. I didn't set when you're in a family relationship or a marriage that's based on survival, it's not that, it's just surviving. It's not looking at that bigger vision. So you really want to, when you're looking at the standards in your spreadsheet and you're looking at dating, you're really trying to see if this person wants the same things and wants to create the same things as you. So that's why just anyone for the sake of it and not being to not be alone is not the same as building a healthy, beautiful family together. Number 5 is a bit of an edgy, I think. You're creating the foundation of the life you want together. You are managing conflict. You are not abandoning and betraying yourself in the relationship. You are both feeling seen and heard, right? You are respecting his time for himself. He's respecting your time for yourself. You're creating beautiful time together. You've been really clear about what you want. You're being your authentic, honest self, right? And then when you feel like this is the time where I want to bring children and family into it. Something I would say, think about your life and your childhood. A lot of people have not just the trauma from the narcissistic parent and the abuse and all of that jazz, but it was also like the loss of presence from the parents because the parents were so dysregulated. So it's like creating this home of like presence and peace and grounded and joy. So the rituals are all creating that joy and that presence, the relationship with self and the relationship together. You're creating a really peaceful nervous system individually and together. So you're really creating an environment for the home so that like these children that come through, they're, in this safe, emotionally safe environment. There's presence and calmness there. There's joy and things like that. When I started to think about motherhood in our relationship, that's what actually started my journey to start my business, because I wanted to have space and capacity to have time and presence with my children. And I also didn't want to have the financial pressure, even though we were two people that were earning a really good salary. That still in this world was just not enough. So that's what made me pursue what am I really here for? Because when we are doing the work of our soul, we unlock abundance in such a way, and freedom and financial abundance. So for me, yeah, we have this foundation of this marriage, which is beautiful, in this home that we've created, this vision for our future. But also, I wanted to do work that meant that I could mother in the way that I wanted. And that brought up a lot in our relationship, because that really is going against the grain, right? Like, we're all meant to work and we're meant to give our children to other people because life is so expensive and all the things. But when you go through a healing journey and you realize how important those 0 to 7 years are, to me, it was like the desire to give them that life, to still do a job that I love and to create, but also to have that time freedom and that financial freedom to be able to be with them. And that has been like an expansion journey for me and my husband, for me to follow my soul path, for him to support me as I do that. This is just an invitation to you. My program Overflow helps women to, follow their highest timeline. So that's like work, career, money, love, relationship. Like we're focusing on creating that higher standard of overflow. So the details are below if you ever want to join us, because that's unlocking like I'm going to do my soul job so that I'm able to be a mother and be fully present in that way as well. I think a lot of women choose not to because they don't feel like they can do that. But I just want to plant the seed here to say you can have that if that's what you truly desire, just like you can have the romantic love you truly desire, the family you truly desire. You can also mother the way you want in that present way, but you are going to have to do the work to get there, to uncover what that work is that you're meant to do in the world, um, to allow yourself to be seen in your magnetism and your brilliance. So this is really like raising your standard as a mother, as a leader, and to do the work that you're meant to. And then also for your relationship to evolve, to be able to hold that as well. I think that that has been really challenging in my marriage at times, because I'm really going against the norm, right? Because to him, he's like, but you could be with kids and like have a normal job. But I'm just like, but that's not the life that I want for them. I want them to have more. I want them to have more time and space with me and with you, and for us not to have financial pressure that's like pushing our nervous systems. And we can do that. So let's go do that. So that's something that I would say as well, like the evolution to really break the cycle is making these big choices to live on that higher timeline. And then also, I would say the other thing that is building of the family. When you've had a narcissistic upbringing, abuse, all the things, that lives inside of your body and inside your cells, inside your nervous system. And as women, we pass that on. So the work, if you really want to set your family free and you're really committing to the highest timeline, is actually the embodiment work to move those patterns out of your body. Things like people pleasing, things like self-abandonment, things like the trauma actually in your cells, like working on that to take that away. That's how we truly set ourselves free from the past, because then it's not sort of caught up in our energy and in the way that we act and the way that we act in our relationships. So I think step 5 really is the rebuild of like the family that you truly want as well, as from the point of conception. Truly clear your body of those trauma patterns, and then when you're going through that process of embodiment and clearing, that your relationship, if you are in the relationship while you do that, or you decide to do it beforehand, like whatever that looks like for you, is able to hold you in that. I didn't know that's what was happening to me when I was struggling with clearing the trauma and the patterns, and I wasn't able to communicate that with him, to be able to say, like, my intuition and my inner guidance was telling me to follow this path of moving the trauma out of the body and doing a bit more work on emotional things and things like that. Whereas my husband was like, just try for a baby, like what we're doing, just keep trying for a baby, just keep trying for the baby. And I'm like, no, that doesn't feel right for me. But I still did what he wanted, because That's me with like that patriarchy programming that he maybe knows better than I do, when I had this wealth of wisdom of what was best for our family. And even like we're moving, that's very much a step for I believe that works for us. And that's not how we've grown up, like with women saying, we need to live here. This is the path to motherhood that I'm going to take, which looks a bit different to the rest of the world. And then what that brings up in the relationship, right? Like that brought things up in our relationship, which back then I didn't have the skills that I have now. Now I can see what it was all about and how to communicate it and how to discuss it in a way that he now understands. But at the time, I didn't sort of know how to communicate those things. Five is like really clearing the body. And then, you're making sure that the relationships in your life are aligned with creating a life that's not like what you saw. So, for example, for me, I always had this vision that if I had a really sensitive child like me and they just see some of their behavior and they think that's normal, that they will let somebody else do that to them. So that's why I'm very careful about the relationships that I keep with anybody. If people are not going to respect me or respect my boundaries or of how they talk or they act, then they're not welcome into my world. So it's almost like I'm creating this world for my children, which is like the foundation is the marriage, is myself, is the marriage, is our home, is the world that we're creating, the rituals, the relationships that we're having. And then we're also working on that we have that supports our family in order to do it in that way, that's what we're building. And that truly sets my family free from the relational blueprint that I've had in the past, that survival that I grew up on, which isn't just the narcissism and the abuse, but many reasons why my dad was a narcissist. Why he was running on survival, trying to keep up all of this crap that we're all told to do and to live a life that wasn't really making him happy. So he abused people to deal with it. It's very brave, courageous work when you're like, yeah, I'm not only going to not repeat a flipping cycle, I'm going to build a new cycle. And this is the work that we do inside of my community. It ends with me, where I teach you how to, break those relational patterns, consciously create something new around women who are building their new lives, and then up leveling to level two, which is the overflow, which is bringing things like career and money into alignment to truly embody those kind of higher frequencies. Because when we hear things like 62 million men are doing this thing and, Epstein files and all this other stuff, which is horrific, and it's coming out for a reason, because we have to face the standards that we have are so low when it comes to men. And for us to change that for our children's lives and for our own, women have to really step up as the leaders of the family of, like, I'm not letting this be my children's story. So even though the man actually wants me to do this, I'm actually going to do this because that's what's best for me and my children. And it's really asking us to step up in that way as mothers and leaders of our families, and to kind of go, it's not the little girl in us that's chasing love, the little maiden that's chasing love. It's the woman in us that's like, is this the right environment for my children? I wasn't brave enough to sort out my stuff when it came to men for me, but the minute that the desire for a child came through, I could up my game for my child. And then when it came to my expansion in business and career, I certainly couldn't do that for myself, but I could do it for them. I'm still on my journey of fertility. It's been complicated because of the trauma and it's affected my health in lots of ways. But I truly, truly believe that whatever that family looks like, that's what's coming and that's what I'm building this for. And even like the abuse and the trauma and the narcissistic dad and the toxic family and all the things, they've really shown me what I don't want. And they've helped me to find what I truly do want. So I know what I'm building. So that's how you build the new family. That's how you go from the narcissistic father to a healthy father and to build a different kind of family. But you and him, your partner, are not going to be perfect because you're both coming in with your own shadows, your own level of consciousness. So to evolve and grow together, it's hearing each other's needs, and that's like that deepening of that relationship. But those fundamentals at the beginning, where you say your truth, where you're authentic, you don't chase, you express yourself in these healthy ways, you're building the foundation for that. So when you're accepting crumbs and, all of that behavior, it's not going to get you that kind of healthy family that you really long for. So it starts early and then it continues to evolve so you can really birth a new family, a new paradigm. Part of the reason why I did this video is I feel like everywhere on the internet now, we talk so much about like narcissism, the abusive parent, all of this stuff, right? Giving us lots of awareness. But what I'm particularly very passionate about is like, how do we create new? How do we create the new family? How do we create the new marriage? How do we create the new home? How do we create that? I want to focus on is like, how are we consciously creating? And if you've been listening to me till the end of this video, this is something that you truly desire. This is a desire in your heart of something that you consciously want to create, but it's got real depth to it because when we're on our membership calls, that we can really look at the nuances of a relationship and be like, is this healthy, or is this my wound, or is this his wound? Like, we can talk about some of that more detail that's harder for us to do here. But I'd love for you to claim in the comments that you are like me, not just the breaker of the cycle, but the builder of the new. Do shout out in the comments and let me know if that's you too, and if this video is helpful, because I just felt after I saw that whole Rape Academy thing that I was like, we really need to discuss how we build new families and new relationships, and that it won't be perfect because he'll have his masculine programming, as will you, but you're willing to work through that together. And also that these men that want to hurt women, that want to hurt children, that we are not feeding them energy anymore, and we're taking that power back. We're not like entertaining if they should be our father's child because we're 30 something or 40 something and we've been really single and we just need to. No, you do not take crumbs because you don't get that. Nobody deserves that. And those men are only going to up their game if everybody takes their power away, which is you take people away from them, you take away their victims, then they're going to have to start to face why they're doing that stuff, right? More and more women that don't accept that is not something that they're just taking, like, it's okay if he cheats, men cheat, or it's okay if he's an addict, that's what men do, or all of this stupid stuff that we say, that behavior is never going to go. And then if we don't deal with it, our daughters have got to deal with it. Like, there's just I feel like a real responsibility of, if we're choosing to be parents and we're choosing to have relationships and things like that, that are we just recreating what we had? Like, we can moan about all the patterns, but we're still carrying them out with our children and in our lives. But this is how we truly set ourselves free. So let me know if you're a builder in the comments. Comment love if you would like to get the spreadsheet I mentioned about raising your standards. And yeah, you can check out my membership or the higher tier, which is Overflow, if you want to go deeper into this work. Everything is below this video. And I'll see you in the next video.